I'm looking forward to the discussion. Absolutely.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of discussion with about landfills and you know, it seems to be the NIMBY thing going on right now, and you know, people are making monsters out of people. And they don't really know the full backstory of, you know, what it goes into designing a landfill. I assume you've take Bethlehem, for instance. That
Sure.
was that's not something that you started, but it's something that you fixed.
Yeah, I mean, when we first, you know, took over, we first bought the facility, there was an unlined landfill there that was contaminating the Ammonoosuc. And, you know, within, I think it was probably 2 years or so of us owning the facility, we dug up that unlined landfill and put it into the lined landfill. So our perspective is we've done, you know, a really good job of taking care of the environment, making sure there aren't off-site issues from the facility. You know, you always have disappointments, and you always have challenges. We're a highly regulated business. Mistakes happen. You got to fix it and move on, but we're fortunate to be able to say that we've not had any off-site issues.
Thursday morning, around 11:45 a.m., August 15th, 2024, NCS landfill seep, surface water discharge.
So our perspective is we've done, you know, a really good job of taking care of the environment and making sure there aren't off-site issues from the facility. But we're fortunate to be able to say that we've not had any off-site issues.
I wanted to add some footage of that water just cascading down along the seep to where I was testing. And what's in that water? And why does DES not care? So you can see it down there too. Why does DES not care about this? That's what's so perplexing. As it enters the Ammonoosuc River.
Right, right. So let's talk PFAS.
Sure.
That seems to be a very, very, we didn't know about it maybe 15, 20 years ago, but now all of a sudden, you know, we're finding products that are made with PFAS, or whether it's your fireman's clothes or your pots and pans. It's in just about everything that's out there, your rugs. And so that eventually leaches into our water system, and of course it's one of the more difficult things to filter out.
Leachate for years all over the country has gone to municipal sewage treatment facilities, but the treatment facilities can't treat the leachate for the PFAS. You can treat it for everything else, but they're not able to handle the PFAS.
Yeah, years ago, I traveling up, I think it was Route 93, I think it was around exit 18. I think they routinely used to spray the entire field with sludge.
Yep.
And I'm sure that field has got to be contaminated. I think they stopped it.
Yeah.
But I don't think people realized what they were doing. They thought they were probably helping the environment. Well, you know, this is waste that'll, you know, fertilize the ground.
Yep.
Not so much because it's right next to the river too. So
That's right. Well, I mean, I think that it all depends on how much PFAS is in the sludge from the municipal sewage treatment facility, and then it's a function of how much has gone in from an industrial standpoint. But yes, that's a growing concern, and in some cases, land application is being banned. So it's again another challenge, certainly for the future.
So if people want to do their own research instead of, because there's a lot of voices out there. If they want to get the research from the horse's mouth, if you will, where can they find this information on the technology of your innovations?
Well, there's a lot of information about all of the things that we're doing. We have a whole awards program directed towards our customers in terms of the innovation that they're doing internally to further their recycling efforts. So there's an awful lot of material that's on our website about all of the programs that we're doing.
What is the website?
It's just Casella.com.
The Casella.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me about that when I was running for my campaign, and I couldn't remember.
What is it? I don't know.
I had to call my campaign. What's my website number? So anyway, it happens.
Well, I had to think about it.
Yeah, that's all right. I did too. So I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking about it. And I think we have a bright future if we could just get past a lot of the naysayers out there.
Senator Avard.
I rise up again against this bill, and I don't like the way the process happened. I feel like this. We had another amendment. My name's on it. Nobody talked about it. But with regards to this bill, having been the chair of Energy and listening to the discussion over 177 and over now, I just want you to understand that there is a lifespan to our current landfills. We heard testimony that Bethlehem had issues and that there were leaks. I believe Sunapee puts their trash in Bethlehem. Bethlehem has a lifespan, and eventually it will close, which means Sunapee may have to ship their garbage all the way to Keystone, Rochester, which means the lifespan of that particular landfill has now going to be diminished. There is an application. There was testimony saying that this does not target one landfill, but I beg to differ. I beg to differ. There's one in Dalton that is being proposed, and there is an application for Dalton. This is Seabrook all over again. Not in my backyard. That's what we're saying. So Dalton can send their garbage out of their town, but don't you dare put it in our town. What we're seeing right now is, again, the rug being pulled out from people that put in an application. They put in a fee for hydrologists, engineering. They go through DES and through the process, but somebody gonna move the goalpost because they don't want it in their backyard. That's what's going on right now. I don't care where this landfill goes. I care about the process. And when we pull the rug out from somebody that wants to do business in the state of New Hampshire, because we don't want it in our backyard, and you can pull on the heartstrings, wonderful, but nobody is going to do business in the state of New Hampshire if this bill gets passed. Nobody. Guess what else is on the line? Part of the application is the $100, possibly $1 million recycling plant.
Sir.
But you said New Hampshire doesn't have its own recycling plant.
No, it doesn't.
It's time for, we probably should get one.
I think so. I think one of the things that we had proposed was, as part of our permitting, we would build a recycling facility, someplace in New Hampshire. And, I'm not sure we get through that process, then we will be building a facility in New Hampshire.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Heck, let's not get a recycling plant. Let's put it in the ground, because who knows? We're only going to save the landfills that we already have right now. Why do we need a recycling plant? It's part of the application, but that goes away. And so does the hope of New Hampshire dealing with it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not going to stop the people from out of state putting their garbage in our towns. This isn't going to do that. What is this going to do? It's going to say, New Hampshire, are you kidding? They are so fickle. They're so fickle. We can't do business in there. If this passes, I hope the governor vetoes it. Thank you, Mr. President.
A big victory for people in the North Country trying to block a landfill from being put next to a state park in Dalton. A bipartisan majority approved legislation yesterday that would require a site-specific evaluation for putting a landfill near a river, lake, or coastline. That would replace the current one-size-fits-all 200-foot setback. This will likely sink a years-long effort to build a landfill near the Forest Lake State Park in Dalton.
The goal of the setback distance is to be sufficient enough to prevent contaminated groundwater from reaching these water bodies.
We're thrilled. We're thrilled. I mean, the senators really thought their way through it. They pulled together. This was a nonpartisan bill in the first place.
In a statement, Governor Sununu suggested he may want changes to the bill in order to sign it, saying this legislation in its current form would result in property tax increases for virtually every family in New Hampshire, and that gives me great pause.
which is being closely watched in the North Country. That override effort came up short in the state Senate.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, regular agenda.
All right, the first on the regular agenda is...
Actually, I think Representative Land has suggested that we take up the solid waste program rules first, and she has a motion.
Okay.
Thank you. I would move a preliminary objection on the rule FP 2024-74.
Second.
Do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We have received a very, very large amount of testimony raising questions with this rule. There are questions that were raised both about the specifics and how it relates to the safety that's done not just in this country but around the world. There's a question of how it relates to the existing rules as well. We have also heard questions about the process and which voices have been heard, how it's been recognized, and basically how public input has or has not been listened to. So I believe that there needs to be some more work to make sure that all of the concerned voices are heard and that we understand exactly what this rule change will mean, not just for our landfills, but for the people of New Hampshire. And so more specifically, we can object on the condition of this being contrary to the public interest, about not being responsive to the public need. We have received a decent amount of testimony that suggests that. And I'm not sure if I need to run through all the different issues on the preliminary objection.
You need to explain the reasons for the preliminary objection. Perfect. And that's it.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to comment that there was vast amounts of comment, and the explanations on how it was addressed are extremely technical, and it didn't seem to me that many of the commenters who came back and complained about the rule really understood how the comments were actually addressed. There's also the issue that these rules are much more protective than the existing rules, which have been extended for as long as we're in rulemaking and are what is now currently being used to evaluate, I believe it's 2 landfill applications. And if we drag this out any much further, it's possible that the landfills in question might be approved on the 10-year-old rules rather than the new rules, which are more protective. And I don't believe that's what anybody wants. So I'm going to support the objection and hope the agency can come back with some more accessible information. Senator Bragg?
My only question is to the staff is if there is anything else we need to waive, any of the deadlines or anything to accomplish this.
No, the preliminary objection creates a 45-day period for the agency to respond, and after that, JLCAR has a 50-day period to respond to that.
Yes, but
it extends the rules.
But after some discussions with other people, I think it's likely that they would be able to come back with some answers for our December meeting, and we could give it a fair shot, and that will also give us a chance to read a bit more of the testimony. Any other comments?
Just to be clear on the objection, so you are objecting according to public interest under JLCAR 40301A2 and 40301G?
Yeah.
And are you also objecting under the legislative intent issue surrounding the purpose statement?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'd like to concur with Representative Leon's remarks and the chairs as well.
Okay, anyone else? Representative Whitley. Oh, Senator Whitley. Excuse me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm wondering if the committee wanted to hear from members of the public who were here. I know this is an issue that people care deeply about, and I wonder if we wanted to hear from them.
The members of the public have submitted large quantities of written testimony that I don't believe much of the committee has actually had a chance to digest yet. And we will, if necessary, we'll talk to other people on the at the meeting when the agency has their response. We have heard enough of the public testimony to be concerned about the rules, and that's why we're objecting.
Madam Chair, has there written testimony been submitted by any of the parties that are coming here today?
Yes, you have some right there in front of you.
Yes, so over 500 pages of testimony were submitted to our office. I have reviewed those. I have some here in my stack that I just received today before the meeting, which have not been reviewed, but they will be added to the file and added to your meeting packets online.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions, comments? In that case, the motion is to preliminarily object to the landfill rules, the 800 rules, and those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to getting a response from the agency.
So you also asked about rules. So we've been, as you know, working in earnest on rules. We had first all our solid waste rules were expiring. So right now we've readopted or have tentative readoption dates for chapters 400, 100, 1100, and 300. So that's great. That's important. Chapter 800, the landfill requirements, probably, been a fair amount of press about it. A lot of concerns on the part of some advocates in the state, particularly ones who are concerned about potential siting of a new landfill, to express concerns of that their comments were not adequately considered or not adequately heard or addressed through the process. We had a hearing before our final proposal, which we presented in October to the Office of Legislative Services and the Joint Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules, went before the JLCAR meeting yesterday morning. It was they had a full agenda. We were last on the agenda, and I think they had some concerns about holding quorum. So they actually pulled our item to the very first on the regular agenda, and there were a number of people there who were prepared to testify. We were there certainly to answer questions, but members of the public were there. They took no public testimony. They didn't talk to us. They went right out of the gate, and they came with a motion to file a preliminary objection on the rules, essentially suggesting that on the basis that they were, in its technical language, contrary to the public interest because we hadn't adequately considered public comment. So what that means is that we have 45 days to prepare a response to that, which we certainly do. We look forward to doing that. Even though we technically have 45 days, the chair made it pretty clear in her remarks that she would really like to have these rules come before the committee at its December 19th meeting, which is about 28 days from yesterday. So it's our plan at this point to provide a response to the committee in advance of that meeting with the anticipation that we will be on the agenda for that point.
Does the new law that come into effect on this one because it's after the...
No, that law I think goes into effect December 9th, and it doesn't apply to this particular rulemaking, but in essence, I think they're looking to basically apply that standard.
That's kind of what I was getting.
Is it common for JLCAR to get testimony like that?
No, I mean, and I'm not a student of JLCAR's past experiences, but for us, most of our rulemaking goes through, and we don't typically get a lot of attention from the public. It's kind of, and JLCAR's responsibility is really about making sure that the administrative process has been followed. It isn't, as the chair mentioned yesterday during the hearing, this is not a policy committee, right? They had 500 pages of testimony was submitted to them in advance of the meeting from advocates of the public, and there were probably a dozen people there yesterday who were putting in pink cards looking to testify. So they're good on them. They weren't blind to that. They saw that and they felt that they wanted to give the agency the opportunity to respond to those allocations that we hadn't followed the process.
So is DES responding to the 500 pages of testimony, or?
No, we're basically we got a letter yesterday explaining the basis for the preliminary objection, and what it really would require us to do is to either change our rules or explain how we believe, and we do believe, that we were responsive to the public, that we did indeed duly consider all comments from all commenters, and that we did a workmanlike job of evaluating those and decide how and where the rules should be amended based on those. So we'll be working on that.
So I sat on JLCAR for 2 or 3 years, and it's really unusual to have that kind of
that's what I thought it was.
But like the thing, so obviously there's a lot of concern about them, but like yesterday, they also had new education rules that they were working on, and I think that went for 3 hours. And this was yesterday. And so to have the landfill rules and the education rules both on the same day would have been chat, but it was a huge issue on the education. Well, so I mean,
in the split, I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
In the split vote, they approved those education.
Right, they did. Yeah. But lots of consternation about it. And then, they have their own, that group has their administrative rules attorneys who also give comments if they think, process-wise there's an issue. So anyway, yesterday was a really big day, but incredible interest on the landfill issue.
You are not required, because we already had testimony twice. Well, you could, if you want to, Dave. You don't want.
All right, we're going to get an open up and come back to JLCAR, and so we'll come back to order. We're going to move on to objection responses, solid waste programs, landfill requirements, Rule OR 2474, and we'll start with the staff, and then we'll go to the agency if you guys want to come up and get ready.
All right, so the objection response was returned from the agency and no changes were made to the rule text. I have no substantive comments on the rule text. The DES did try to address the reasons for objection, including the DES states that the rules were more protective than the current rules, and that they responded to public comment and considered public comment. That's evidenced by the 26-page summary of comments and Exhibit 2 in the packet that has the spreadsheet of all comments. And they stated that there were no communications with stakeholders outside of the rulemaking process. And I think that eliminates the bases for objections that were raised. And so I have no further comments. Rick?
Introduce yourself, guys.
Good afternoon. I'm Assistant Commissioner Adam Crapo at the Department of Environmental Services, and I here with me Mike Wimsat with the Waste Management Division. So I'll just give a quick intro and then I'll hand it over to Mike. But we received a preliminary objection the last time we were at JLCAR. We feel that we have responded to the reasons for the objection. That there were 3 reasons. You know, and we believe that these rules are much more protective than the current existing rules. And beyond that, we believe that we also provided plenty of opportunity for public comment through the process. I would argue we went above and beyond the required process for public comment when creating rules and doing rulemaking under 541A. And so I think those 2 points really encapsulate many of the reasons that went into doing a preliminary objection. So I'll hand it over to Mike to kind of go into more detail. But one of the other things that I would like to add is that these rules are more protected in 27 different areas, and in no case are less protective than to the public health and the environment than the current existing rules. And so, Mike, I don't know if you want to go into that, or Representative McGuire.
Yes, thank you. Based on that response, I would like to move to approve the rule.
Second. Okay.
It's
been moved by Representative McGuire and seconded by Senator Avard. And you may speak to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to approve the rule, which is more protective than the 10-plus-year-old rules we have currently in effect, because we need to settle it and go with this improved level of protection. They are not perfect, but most of the issues we have heard from, and we've had voluminous public testimony, appear to be based more on the policy for landfills than on the specifics of the rules. And I know there are more than 3 bills coming in this year that address the policy of landfills. And I would like to have a better baseline in the rules before we settle the issue of the policy, any changes to the policy. And because if any of those bills pass and change the requirements, the rules will have to be updated to incorporate those changes. And that's my major purpose, is to separate the policy discussion, which is important, from the rules discussion. And JLCAR is not a policy committee. We can only go by what's currently in the laws. So that's why I moved to approve the rule.
Any comments? Any comments from anybody else? Representative Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I will be opposing the motion because I feel that the statement that the response of the agency to the fact that these rules are better than the existing rules, the proposed rules are better than the existing rules, is almost disrespectful to the amount of opposition that these rules have received from the public, and the fact that they may be better in a whole series of ways does not mean that better is good. Better is not a sufficient response. These rules are not protective enough, and the fact that they may be better than the existing rules is very weak in my opinion. But I want to have an opportunity for the argument to be made with regard to a number of other aspects of the opposition that we have heard and seen, but also with regard to the objection bases that Representative Leon's motion was based on, and that this committee voted unanimously in support of. So I think the agency's categorical defense of their response or non-response, as the case may be, needs to be further explored, and we need to proceed.
Open to further discussion and comment. Representative Leah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking at this, you know, it's a challenging situation to be in because I don't think that the rules that are in there is protected as they should be. But I've been trying to look and see where this doesn't meet what statutory guidelines are. I'm trying to see where there is something that is a role for JLCAR to say this, because if we look to the public benefit, we look to these, a lot of those issues about what environmental policy should be are settled in the legislature and policy committees. And I'm really looking forward to the discussion on it because I think people are becoming a lot more educated on this issue. And as much as I would like to do something here just because, you know, I want to protect the water and the soil and whatnot, we also need to look at what the role is of JLCAR. And if we overstep things here, we're going to set out everything out of whack as well for every other rule that comes in front of us. So even though we may personally feel that we want to do something, we need to act in our role as JLCAR, not as an advocate and not trying to push policy in this committee.
Further discussion. So I am going to make the same statement as Representative Leon, understanding this is not a policy committee. The question is, as the law was passed and the rules were drafted based on the law was passed, did they meet the conditions in terms of the law that was passed? And there's been no objection to that. Everyone thinks that meets the minimum requirement of the law, which is one of the criteria for JLCAR's objection. So the secondary purpose is, again, the declared intent of whether or not it protects the national environment or anything else. It's clear that these rules, while may not go as far as some want, that's a policy decision, not a discussion for this body. That's a discussion for the Agriculture Environment Committee and the Energy Environment Committee in the House and the Senate. So from the agency's response and from their objection response, it's clear that, again, there are multiple areas where these new rules are more restrictive than the current rules, which go further to protect our environment, protect our water, protect everything else, protect the New Hampshire beauty. And so, again, going beyond that is not, again, individual members here may think it doesn't go far enough, but that's what the purposes of bills are for, is for you to write a bill, and you can push it further if you think they didn't go far enough. So with that, if there's no further comment, I'm going to move to a vote. And we'll do this by...
Mr. Chair, I want to acknowledge that you have pending requests for public testimony before the JLCAR acts today. Are you not going to entertain public testimony before the JLCAR acts today?
Thank you for the question. So because there was a motion made, after a motion is made, public testimony is generally not accepted in any public committee in the legislature. It becomes a discussion on the motion in and of itself is what happens amongst the members of the committee. So because the Representative McGuire chose to make a motion and it was seconded by Representative Avard, that ended discussion amongst the public body and the agency and moved strictly to a discussion amongst the legislature.
Thank you.
All right, that being said, is there any further discussion? So we're going to do this by a show of hands, so we get roll call. It's been asked to have a roll call. We don't have a clerk, and so Doug, that usually falls to you. So do a roll call of the sitting members, and reminder of the sitting members. We have all of the senators, and with Senator Avard being sat as an alternate, and then all of the House members are present. I'll make it easy for you. I'll do it. All right. We'll start with Representative Schmidt.
No.
Representative Lynn.
Yes.
Representative Leon.
Yes.
Representative Rowe.
Yes.
Representative McGuire.
Yes.
Senator Avard.
Yes.
Senator Ward.
Yes.
Senator Long.
Yes.
Senator Innes.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So the vote is 9-1 to approve the rules as presented. All right.
Boo.